Good evening. Welcome to the Cape Charles regular meeting, June the 16th, 2022. Can I get a roll call?
Buckles present.
Holloway present.
O'Brien present.
Grossman present.
Fulmer present.
Let it be known that Vice Mayor Bennett is on his way and will be arriving late. We'll make note of that once he gets here. And we've established a quorum. Can I get everybody to rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 3, recognition of visitors, presentations and recognitions. A, recognition of employees celebrating significant anniversaries. Up first is Mr. Bob Panic, who's actually been with the town for 15 years, believe it or not. Mostly as a consultant and part-time role. He's kind of held down a lot of different roles within the town, but we definitely appreciate everything that Bob's done. I don't see him here tonight. I'm going to give this to John to give to him. Thank you. Next is Andrew Spencer, who's an officer now, but I was the one that actually hired him on April the 3rd, 2012, so it's been 10 years. God, I'm getting old. That's Officer Spencer. So I don't see him here tonight, but he's been with us for 10 years. Basically, Harbor, he did a little bit of everything, but right now he's one of our finer officers, and we appreciate all of his services that he does for the town. So I'm going to give this to the chief. I must appreciate it. Thank you. And last is John Stratton. He's been with the town for 5 years. We certainly appreciate his services. I think he's Public Works.
Public Works.
Yeah, it's Public Works. I wasn't sure if it was Public Works or Public Utilities, but I figured I'd clarify that. But he's been one of the guys out cleaning their streets and picking up their trash cans and keeping their town clean, and we definitely appreciate all of his services. I'll give this to John. All right. Next is Best of Virginia presentation, Cape Charles Beach.
Me.
You.
So last Monday, we had a celebration for 24 businesses or attractions in Cape Charles that won in Virginia Living Magazine Best of Award for the Eastern Region. And we wanted to present the Cape Charles Beach, which won Best Tourist Attraction. And I wanted to thank specifically Public Works for all the work that they do to help keep that clean, but we wanted to make sure that the mayor received it, so we brought it here in person today. And for council, I have a copy of the magazine that shows all the winners. If you'd like to take a look, I have an extra copy.
Seen our award, but great job, Public Works, and everybody else that takes part in keeping our beach clean on a daily basis, because I know a lot of our citizens take pride in our beach, so thank you all very much. Public comments. 3 minutes per speaker.
Alrighty.
Councilman Buckholz has got the timer.
He does? Okay. Tom Weaver.
How you doing this evening, Mr. Weaver?
I'm doing very well. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of Town Council. It's nice to be here. Those of you who might know a little bit about me know that I had back surgery in December, so I feel very fortunate to be active. Before I start, I'd just like to thank everybody that was involved in this budgeting process, because I've been through many in my working career, and I know how rigorous that can be and how much time can be consumed trying to put that together. I don't have a lot to say about this, and I apologize. I didn't attend a lot of the meetings that have been held on this, but just some general comments comparing 2021 to 22, 23. Granted, you know, there were some really unusual times. And I know you took that into consideration. I've seen some significant changes here in numbers. Now, I'm going to try to get into that. It's just a comment really more than anything else, because I don't know how you do it. 21 and 22 have been, and part of 19 have been real challenges, 19 and 20. One of the questions I had, is there anyone on your staff, John, who pursues grants, federal, state grants? I mean, I'm just thinking about opportunities that might exist in these challenging times. As you well know, we went through with this grant with Main Street that I was part of that was rather substantial, that helped an awful lot of people. But I'm thinking in general, grants that will help towns do specific things, maybe sometimes matching grants, but that's something you might want to consider. And the other question I have was about health insurance. It's a real expense, obviously, to any business. What is the sharing of that expense? I mean, obviously, employees pay a part, the town pays a part. Is that information you can share? I'm talking about percentages, not dollar amounts.
The employees only are covered 100% by the town. Dependents are not.
That's interesting. And I'm not questioning it, that I'm just, from my own past experience, from a utilization standpoint.
30 seconds.
Pardon?
30 seconds.
Okay. And that's all I have to say, really. Let's see if there's anything else. There was one line item there, and that was the concrete plant that was $200-some thousand. Is that right? There's going to be a windfall revenue for 2022. Is that right? It was on page 2 of 49. Excuse me, 23,279%. Anyhow, thank you.
If it's all right with council, and I know we typically don't do this, but if council don't mind, I kind of answer his question about the grants a little bit. Council have any objection to that? Mr. Weaver, I know it all depends on what we're going for when it comes to grants. I know when I was harbor master, I went after several grants and stuff, and I know Bob Panic, who's been, I just recognized for 15 years, he saved us a ton of money with the wastewater treatment plant going after grants. So there's his staff that goes after grants depending on what we're doing. We get grants for the trail project and stuff like that. So yes, we do have staff members with stuff coming up that we do get grants, but grants is not guaranteed. We apply for them. We don't never know what we get till after the fact. Does that help any? I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
And administratively, as you want.
No, I know.
That's all I'll say.
Grants is a real challenge.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Diane Davis.
Good evening. Diane Davis, 601 Jefferson Avenue, resident. Mr. Mayor, members of Town Council, Town Clerk. Good evening.
Ms. Davis.
I just have a few questions or concerns. My first is in reference to the historic district. I understand that we have some guidelines, we've paid somebody to design some guidelines for the historic district, and I don't think it was cheap. But I'm trying to figure out, right now, I don't know where the historic district is, because all the houses, many of the houses have been built recently. They are not similar to anything that we've had here, and I know it doesn't have to be, but the designs of the homes and all are so different now. So I don't know why we are constantly going through looking at that. I don't know why we have a historic district review board, because there's so many things have changed, and it's very hard to go back if one person's done one thing and someone else has come in and they want to do it and you tell them no, because the precedent has been set, and I told you all that years ago. But it's unfair. So some people who come, they want to do a certain thing and they can't, and then others have done it. So I still don't know, like I said, where the historic district actually is now. I used to know, but so many things have changed, because everywhere there are lots, homes have been built, and some of them do not look like anything we've had in town. Okay, that is my comment with that. My second one is dealing with the safety of people, and I was just wondering, I know you make the final decisions in most things that happen here in the town, and I'm just wondering, because we have the walkers here, we have people on bicycles, we have the scooters. As you make decisions based on the people who are here, do you all consult with the chief of police and his staff, because they're the ones who are out there and they're seeing everything that's going on? They hear the comments also, especially mine. But I think we need to talk with them sometimes to see what is happening also, because when we make decisions, and say, for instance, some of you might not even be in this area to see what is going on, but because I walk all the time, I see many things. I know what I do to help people. So that should be a concern. Like I said, I don't know whether you consult with him or not, but I think that's a concern that you should consider. And the last thing is just a question. We've been talking about the budget and all those things. Unfortunately, I have not been to a meeting, but I'd just like to know, and you don't have to answer now, but just think about it, because you know what's in there. Did you include anything in your budget in reference to sidewalks? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Tevye Griffin.
Good evening, Mayor Dias, Vice Mayor Bennett, and all members of Town Council. My name is Tavia Griffin, and I am the president of the Cape Charles Rosenwald School Restoration Initiative. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I do have 3 points that I want to make on behalf of the board. First, we want to thank the town for your continued support of our work at the Rosenwald School, located at 1200 Old Cape Charles Road. Thank you specifically for the donation of property behind our school. We will be using that as a recreational area. It will also help us with our stormwater management regulations as we have to move forward and do a site plan for the the parking lot, and we also will use that as a recreation and open space where we will have some recreational trails. So thank you. Also wanted to give you an update. I have not been before you since, I think, the pandemic. I don't remember the last time I was here wearing a mask, so that's the assumption that it was before the pandemic. And we've been doing a lot. We have raised over $565,000 for phase 1 of our project, and phase 1 includes demolition of some interior items inside of the building, roof replacement. You will be seeing in the coming months a new roof coming onto the building. We're actually at our board meeting tonight, so after this, I'm scooting right out to go make a decision on the 2 bids that we have for the roof. Tree trimming and removal, we already have a permit before the town for that, the 2 trees in the front. Also, we're going to begin window restoration, historic window restoration, temporary electric service, and our permits and reviews. We are excited about that, but the third reason why I am here is because there's an opportunity before us through the Department of Housing and Community Development through the state, and it is called the IRF grant, Industrial Revitalization Grant. This year they are allowing 2 each locality to choose 2 projects. And I am here because I would love for you to consider our project as one of those. We can apply for as much as $1 million, and that's huge because we've never been able to apply for that much, and there is no match. No match for the town, and no match for our organization. And this comes in right in budget. Phase 2 is $985,000, so it's perfect. This will include framing, our electrical rough-in, plumbing rough-in, HVAC rough-in, sprinkler rough-in, low voltage rough-in, kitchen vent hood and fire suppression rough-ins, window installation, and site work. So, hoping that you would, if you want to talk to me or anyone on the board, please do. The grant is due August 19th, so what we're looking for and what has to happen is a resolution from the town council that we meet all the criteria for this grant. And of course, we believe that we do, or I wouldn't be before you. Lastly, I do want to recognize Beth Walker, who's with us. She is our project manager, and you also probably recognize Beth from the owner of Northampton Hotel. Miss Diane Davis, who just spoke, is my old teacher, but she is also a member of, she's a membership with the board. She went to the school herself, so she's a graduate of Cape Charles Elementary. And you also have William Knight, and Mr. Knight is a member of our board. Also here with us is Dave Wilcox. You may have heard of Dave. He is a volunteer in the town. He has his own business, Global Skills Exchange. He is helping us because we are moving forward and trying to really hone in on the uses that will be in the building. And I know I'm probably past my 3 minutes, and y'all are being very sweet. And so I'm going to wrap it up. I've been working with Mr. Wilcox because he is helping us as we hone in our workforce development and workforce training, and that is what one of the uses of that building will be. It will also have a community kitchen. So we see ourselves as a multi-generational use facility where we are trying to improve the opportunities that people have in Northampton County. We also have been talking to the community college, and we're working on an MOU with them. They will have a classroom in our space so we can bring some people in Northampton and get them, improve education, and it also improve their employment opportunities through workforce training. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and anyone here that I've mentioned can answer them, and I appreciate your time and letting me go over. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's awesome, and I would like to say, please get with Mr. Hosey or set up a meeting with Mr. Hosey.
We already have.
And we have.
Okay.
We
I
have.
figured you had, but
I'll be talking about that in my report.
but anyway, awesome work. Awesome,
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
So,
Thank
yeah.
you so much.
Go ahead, start timer now.
Jim Altadonna.
Mr. Mayor, Town Council, how are you tonight? I'm here to talk about the water. I was wondering where we are in the process.
Same place we were a while ago. We don't have a proposal. We don't have a proposal yet.
You don't have a proposal?
No.
Okay.
Have
you checked?
It's gonna be a while.
Okay, and with the county, has anyone checked with the county, like I had asked before, about the assessed valuation that will come back on the infrastructure?
I can't answer that right now.
No, I'm saying,
I'm just saying I can't answer. I don't have the information in front of me. I can't answer it, so.
but has anyone checked? I'm just saying yes or no. Has anyone checked to see if the county's going to assess all the assets?
Mr. Hosey will be getting back to you.
Okay. All right, and my next question is, I spoke to Mr. Hosey there, and we understand now that although Hampton Roads does do water and sewer, they only do up to 1,000 homes. So we're back to square one. My request is that you please look and maybe split with Hampton Roads for sewer as opposed to water, because once you outsource, we've outsourced the garbage here. What was the complement of people that went private from the county, from the town? Do you know?
What was your question?
When we went from, let's say, public waste to private waste pickup, there was a complement of people that went over to the private waste. So how many people were that?
The entire town.
I'm sorry?
The entire town?
No, how many employees? Did the employees transfer
No, they stayed.
to
They stayed
Davis?
here.
They stayed here.
They all stayed
Okay,
here.
and are those employees for the waste and for water, will they transfer to the new entity, or will they stay here?
That's
That's part of the negotiation.
That's part of the negotiations.
That's part of the negotiation. Okay. But what would be the wish of the town? To keep the employees or to transfer them to the new?
Well, this is a public comment session, we're not going to go back.
Oh,
and
we're
forth.
not gonna
This
ask?
is not a town hall
Okay.
session, so
Okay.
you can raise your questions, and we'll get back, Mr.
And you'll
Host
get
will
back to us?
you.
Okay. All right.
You might want to look at those, some of the recordings that have been done, because those questions,
30 seconds.
A lot of those questions has already been
Okay.
answered.
and it's all
Well,
on the website.
it's important because, the outsource of people is always critical.
Yes.
And also, as you shrink government, which is what, if you outsource, maybe the need for higher quality people
10 seconds.
will come. So, like Mr. Hosey, his job is going to get smaller. So as it gets smaller, what role will he take? And I know this is public comment.
That's your
Yeah,
time.
what role will he take,
That's your
going
time, sir.
forward? I'm sorry?
Time's up,
Oh, time's up?
time's up.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Lorraine Huckler.
Thank
Hello,
you.
Ms. Huckler.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you again. And I suspect that you'd like to get this budget process done, so I will get right to my points. This is all about the budget. So the first is the new municipal building, and there's a request in the deliberations to expand the contract for the initial study for architectural engineering and bidding services. And I was surprised that the town wasn't going to have a competitive bid for that large of a contract. It's a pretty large scope to ensure they receive the best value. I've been involved in capital projects for my church in New Jersey, about a $3 million project. But what exactly is the value of a new town hall for residents and property owners, who are the vast majority of stakeholders? A new town hall project is pure expense. It doesn't generate revenues or attract visitors or improve the quality of life for residents. And I haven't seen any articles in the Gazette or local newspapers discussing the benefits. I believe that building a new town hall now, at this time, is not in the best interest of stakeholders. And I believe that a vote to approve this contract is essentially a vote to spend $4.5 million in the next fiscal year or more. And I don't think it's in the best interest of the stakeholders. Let me switch gears to the water and waste plants, and I promise I'm not going to talk about the sale. It's about the risk of partially treated sewage being discharged in the bay due to the continued failures of the membranes of the wastewater plant. I'm very familiar, being a water expert, what happens in that membrane bioreactor. It uses bacteria to break down harmful components to non-toxic compounds before releasing the treated water into the bay. And in the May 26th session, I heard about the continual failures of the structural components and deterioration of the membranes. And in some cases, the damage was so severe the operators had to abandon those portions of the membrane, reducing the capacity of the plant. I've worked in those plants. Operating with fewer membranes increases the stress and accelerates the deterioration of membranes, the remaining membranes. The normal service life of these membranes is 8 to 10 years. The plant is 9 years old, and delivery is a year in advance.
30 seconds.
I think that the town has placed the first down payment, and my question is, why wouldn't the town order additional sets of membrane? This is really a risk of discharge to the bay and violations. I believe that this has broad interest by stakeholders not to pollute the bay and risk the tourism and the beach. I mean, those things can happen. The operator has to spend their time troubleshooting those membranes.
Thank you, Ms. Huckler.
That's everybody that has signed up, but I do have 2 emails that were submitted for the record.
Okay.
The first email is from Sam Jones. It says, Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council and Town Manager, my name is Sam Jones, and my wife Julie and I live at 538 Monroe Avenue. Thank you for the thoughtful way you are considering the issue of accessory dwelling units in Cape Charles. I offer several comments. First, there have been some suggestions that use of accessory dwelling units for other than long-term workforce housing will increase the population density of Cape Charles. I believe the town addressed the density issue when it allowed both short-term and long-term rentals on a single property. In any event, it's hard to see how the use of accessory dwelling units for family and friends on holidays or vacations creates greater density than a long-term renter who may be there year-round. Second, in his briefing document, the town manager highlighted the following: promote accessory dwelling units to add diversity of housing types while maintaining the neighborhood character and providing affordable housing options. At this point, the interpretation of the current ordinance and the language in the draft ordinance rejected by the town council focus solely on the affordable workforce housing issue. I believe this focus goes far beyond promoting ADUs to add to the diversity of housing units. Finally, I give two examples of what can be considered by right use. Currently under consideration by the Planning Commission is a request by a homeowner to convert part of the garage to a home office with a bath and kitchen. Earlier this year, another homeowner requested approval to convert the upper floor of their garage to provide overflow space for family and friends on special occasions. I believe that both of these should be considered by right use of property and require only the appropriate building permits to move forward. Please consider addressing these types of issues as you provide guidance back to the Planning Commission. Thank you. The second email is from Julie Jones. It says, good evening, Mayor Dyes, councilmen and councilwomen, and Town Manager Hosey. My husband and I reside at 538 Monroe Avenue here in Cape Charles. We split our time between the home in Cape Charles and our home in Williamsburg. Williamsburg is also a tourist town as well as home to the College of William and Mary, plus the people who are residents, and has some of the same issues currently facing the town of Cape Charles, specifically housing and parking. Residents of the city of Williamsburg are issued parking stickers because there are problems with students and tourists parking in residential areas, either because of proximity to their destination or to avoid the cost of paid parking. Williamsburg also has property owners who either rent out their accessory units or an entire house. In order to make these rentals affordable, sometimes a lot of students will try to cram into one house or ADU. This exasperates the parking shortage and also increases the density and noise level. In response, the city of Williamsburg has put restrictions on the number of unrelated people who can occupy one dwelling. In light of your current consideration of regulating ADUs in the town of Cape Charles, I have two questions. One, is there a limit as to the number of people who are allowed to occupy an ADU? Is there any kind of fire regulation governing this, especially since these are typically small spaces? Do the people living long-term in an ADU have to be related, family, or could several unrelated people share an ADU? Is there a limit as to the number of vehicles that could be associated with an ADU? For that matter, is there a limit as to the number of vehicles associated with the short-term rental property? Parking is an ever-increasing problem, and it is frustrating as a homeowner to not be able to park in relative proximity to our home, for which we do pay considerable taxes. Some visionaries in Williamsburg have begun to convert some of the old motels, of which there are many, into affordable apartments to help meet the housing needs of many people who are employed in jobs related to the tourist industry. The potential conversion of the Kip-to-Peak Inn to affordable apartments is similar to what is being done in Williamsburg. Sam and I have been so blessed since purchasing our home here in 2015 by the beauty and peaceful nature of this sweet little town. We are so appreciative of the time and energy each of you contribute, as well as the sacrifices you make in your service to the town of Cape Charles. Sincerely yours, Julie Jones.
Thank you, Libby. Before we move on to the consent agenda, I would like to make note that Vice Mayor Brennan arrived right before the public comment session. Forgot to make note of when he walked in, so welcome.
Thank you. Apologize.
The consent agenda motion, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is the approval of the agenda format, approval of the minutes, and approval of the April 30th, 2022 financial report?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Looks like we're skipping unfinished business again. New business, adoption of a budget management policy.
Mr. Mayor, during the budget development process this year, was determined that we had inadvertently overlooked a policy for management of town manager authority with regard to budgets that you pass. We did a lot of other financial policies back in '20, but this one seemed to be missed. So what we did was we came up with a set of parameters from which that the town manager has authority to move money from between line items within funds, and the town manager is not allowed to move money between funds. And those parameters are specified within this resolution. This resolution, we had to do this one first because this resolution is referenced in the budget resolution, which then authorizes that transfer. So this was discussed during the work sessions, and it was consensus to bring it forward, so we recommend approval.
Now get up.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 2022-0616, establishing a budget management policy.
Second.
Any discussion? I move for adoption of resolution 2022-0616, establishing a budget management policy and notice, as noticed, and forgo the reading of the resolution. Roll call vote.
Buckles, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Bennett, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Grossman, yes.
Fulmer, yes.
Let it be known it's been adopted unanimously. Item B, adoption of FY 2023 budget.
So, Mr. Mayor, we've been through a long process with this, several work sessions. We held a public hearing last week on this. It's been appropriately advertised as required by Virginia Code. The budget represents a number of individual funds. We've increased the number of funds over the years to help provide a little bit more transparency into in what we're doing for each purpose. This budget represents approximately $4 million in general fund appropriations, $1.9 million in capital fund appropriations, approximately $250,000 in debt service fund. Our special activities fund, which is grants like the ARPA money, that sort of thing, is $919,000. Public utilities fund is appropriating $2.6 million. The harbor fund, $1.15 million. And the sanitation fund, $442,000. The budget also proposes a reduction in real property tax by almost a dime to 21 cents per hundred. Also a reduction in personal property tax by 50% to $1 per hundred. The only increase in user fees or taxes proposed is something that was out of our control. It's contractual. It's their trash collection. We went out for bid last year, and the price has gone up by $1.60 a month for trash collection. Other than that, there is also attached revised fee schedules for planning and zoning. But other than that, the budget remains fairly consistent, no new services this year. Everything else remains the same, and recommendation is approval.
Any motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to put on the table that we approve ordinance 2022-0616, approving the budget for fiscal year 2022/23, and including the building planning and zoning fee schedule, making appropriations for the fiscal year.
Second.
We got a motion, we got a second. Any discussion on the budget? I move for adoption of ordinance 2022-0616, approving the budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 at building, planning, and zoning fee schedule and making appropriations for the fiscal year as noticed and forgo the reading of the ordinance. Can I get a roll call vote?
Buckles, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Bennett, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Grossman, yes.
Fulmer, yes.
Let it be known as unanimous. All right, up next, Myrtle Land and Apartments Local Economic Development Authority financing.
So, Mr. Mayor, this is There's been a request of the ETA to assist with bonds to help finance the renovation of Myrtle Landing Apartments. This is kind of a mutually beneficial thing for them. It provides tax-free financing for the project, but it also allows for revenue to the EDA. But because we're a part of the EDA, it requires a resolution of support by the council. It has been approved by the EDA, and so this is a requirement to make that happen, and staff recommends approval.
Can I get a motion for adoption 2022-0616B?
I'll continue rolling here.
You go ahead.
Recommend adoption of resolution 2022-0616 Bravo, approving the EDA's financing for Myrtle Landing Renewal LLC.
I'll second.
We got a motion, we got a second. Any discussion on this item? Move for adoption of resolution 2022-0616B, resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Cape Charles, Virginia, with respect to Economic Development Authority financing for Myrtle Landing Renewal LLC, as noticed, and forego the reading of the resolution. Can I get a roll call?
Buckles, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Bennett, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Grossman, yes.
Fulmer, yes.
Let it be known it's unanimous.
Yeah, and just, Mr. Mayor, just to add that this is just a bit over $10 million that they're putting into this development down at the end of our Randolph Street here. So significant overhaul with that whole establishment.
Right.
And
It's
much
good.
needed
Yeah.
Yep.
housing for seniors.
So, okay, zoning map amendment application 238 Randolph Avenue.
This is for information only. I'm going to ask the zoning administrator to brief you on it.
The Planning Commission at their last meeting brought up this matter again, took it off the table, had extensive discussion relative to the application. From our last meeting, they had asked me to do the research to see if any of these uses could be deemed legal nonconforming. I did include all of that information for you. I did not find that it met the status of achieving a legal nonconforming status over the entire length of time. And I'm happy to go through any of that if you would wish, but I'm really going to jump down to the meat of their conversation after that, which was really to look through the proffers that were extended by Mr. Gamino relative to the rezoning request as a whole. And so as I noted all the way through, we are asking for some clarification and potential improvements to the proffers that were extended from Mr. Gamino relative to each of those items. And in particular, relative to deliveries, we're looking for some clarification regarding other service-related deliveries. We are also looking under waste management. We think that this should move away from the trash receptacles that we all know today and actually move over to dumpsters. We think that would be a much better option if there was just fewer trash receptacles, fewer than 15, and bring it down to at least one dumpster, maybe two dumpsters at max. And to have that serviced by a third-party vendor, which would be paid by the hotel, and would eliminate, as I said, not only the number of large trash receptacles on the site, but also the effort it takes to bring them out weekly for servicing onto the town sidewalk. As part of that approach, we also indicated that if there happens to be an expansion of the hotel, which was previously considered this spring, that maybe the number of dumpsters should have to increase or the frequency of collection should have to increase of that unit. So we included all of that information there. Lastly, we had a great deal of conversation about the proffer condition of the golf carts, the location and charging station of such. And while he did limit the number of golf carts that he would include in his proffer, again, our conversation from the Planning Commission just felt the golf carts were not essential to the hotel services and really did not feel it really belonged as part of this consideration of a rezoning and do not support it at all being part of this and would recommend its total removal of said. And with that, they would recommend the changes to the landscaping and screening associated both with the changeover of the type of trash receptacle to a dumpster as well as the removal of the golf cart landscaping and screening associated for that. And then they asked for clarification regarding the addresses and businesses that were associated there, and we did stress that these are all associated with businesses that fall within the Hotel Cape Charles real estate itself, and they're either operated by him or they are tenants of his, but it's not businesses that are sitting outside of that real estate, so to speak. So we hope that made some clarification for everyone. I do want to stress that proffers are voluntary conditions put forward by the applicant. We cannot require them to do this, nor can we require them to alter them in any way, shape, or form. So at this point in time, I have provided this staff report. I've talked with Mr. Gamino. He is considering the discussion points from the Planning Commission, and the way we left our conversation is that he would get back to me in about a week's time to see if he might be amenable to some alterations to his proffers. He did make it clear at that point in time he was not favorably inclined towards the golf cart removal condition. So I just wanted to share you all that information tonight, not ask for any action, and give us at least till next month to see if we have any response from Mr. Gamino.
Anybody have any questions for?
Isn't the coffee house get their gas through there?
The propane tank, yes.
So they do, there is.
It is, but again, that's an established thing outside of this to some extent, because that was legally permitted and approved through a building permit for that propane tank to be offered there, and who's choosing to receive their service from there. That was all done as part of a renovation permit. So whether you approve any component of this rezoning has nothing to do with that propane tank.
Yeah, but it's coming through that property.
Yes. He noted it, but it was already
All right, that's all.
Yeah.
a town-approved process. Yes.
Well, that was my first question. And I would like to say good work on this to the commission. This has come a long way. The one issue I would raise is, again, going to the golf carts. While it might not be considered essential to the hotel operations, we are a golf cart town. And whether the hotel offers them or not, if they stop offering them, then guests are just going to rent golf carts. And if they're not allowed to be parked behind the hotel, that's worsening our very tight parking situation on Mason. And I raised this before because in the previous planning commission meeting on it, it was kind of dismissed as, by some of the commission members, as, you know, there's alternative options for parking those, but none were actually identified without worsening the Mason Avenue parking situation. So that I'm concerned about that because I don't think we need those additional golf carts dumped out on Mason.
I have a question.
Good.
What is the zoning on what was Cool Eats, which is now Cake Charles? Is that residential with special exception? It's not?
I can answer that.
What's the zoning of Cake Charles? What's
Sure.
that?
So Cake Charles, which is a business over on Strawberry Street, it is in a residential zoning district. It is a legal non-conforming use because it's been an ongoing operational business for well over 60, I think now 62 years. It was a barber shop at one point. It then moved over to, they did ice cream and
Ice cream
sandwiches and
sandwiches, and
something.
now it's right.
And it's continued in that venue of some sort of retail food space since then as well. So it has been a legal non-conforming use continuous.
Is there any reason has that been discussed, or is there any reason that can't be the approach used on this piece of property? So everybody wins, in a sense?
That's exactly what the Planning Commission asked me to research, a
Okay.
legal non-conforming status of that residential lot, and there was a break in service of ownership and use that negates the legal non-conforming consideration.
The other thing I'd add for that piece of property, it did come before Planning Commission where they wanted to extend the commercial to the small plats, a real small, you can't do anything with it. But the Planning Commission said no, and then ultimately.
No, they didn't say
well,
no.
They
The
didn't accept it. let's
No,
say.
they didn't do that either. Sorry, I'm going to correct you for a
Go ahead,
second.
go ahead.
The applicant, the property owner at that time
seems
petitioned for a rezoning and then withdrew it before any decisions were ever reached
Correct.
from either the Planning Commission
Right.
or the Town Council.
Right.
And then the property was sold and
Right.
the current business is living within the legal non-conforming constraints.
I just want to thank you, Katie, for doing that historical research, which is significant, and we have a lot of that gap kind of stuff, and to put that history kind of together on a property that impacts all other properties was significant. It really was. It's not an easy job, nor do you have one regularly, but thank you. I do share the concern about golf carts. Mine's different, but I do think it's the business's responsibility to figure it out. My concern is, where are they going to charge? I'm not as worried about them being parked on the street. I'm worried about how they're going to be rigged up somehow to electrically charge. We already have risk of people pulling them up and drive, in their front yards and across sidewalks, and the Joneses, for example, have like these limousine ones next to their house all the time, like halfway in their yard. So we have an issue kind of there, but I do think it's the business's responsibility to figure out that solution. I agree with you, Andrew. It's what do you want to do, but the plugging in is what we're all 10 of those going to go.
True.
I have a process question. With Mr. Gambino coming back with what he will accept or change relative to properties, it won't go back to planning commission, it will come to town council.
That's correct.
Okay.
Anybody got any more questions for Katie? Thank you very much. There's a lot of work put into it. Thank you.
Sure.
Harbor Development Certificate Application, Gazebo at the Town Harbor.
I'll start.
Go ahead, you start. Let's
I
hear this.
have to come hat in hand on this one. I screwed up. And Katie saved my bacon. So we haven't built anything at the harbor in a long time. And in fact, the Harbor Area Review Board hadn't met in the entire time I've been town manager. So when we had discussed, I discussed with council, dressing up that area and putting a gazebo in and turning it into more of a park, I just did it and didn't seek the proper approval. That is not setting the proper example. And so Katie jumped through the hoops and made it right. So anyway, thank you, Katie, for going through that. The HARB did meet, reviewed, and approved it. And now we're here asking for your approval. Anything you need to add to that?
That's it. I'm here if you have any questions on the staff report.
It's a little question. Somewhere in here, now I didn't circle it, it talked about would there be electrical in it, and I sure as heck hope so, because that's ridiculous to not have put it in when you're building it, because we want to use that for future events, and I mean the challenges we have with our current gazebo and pavilion. Let's think ahead and get that planned.
So, yes, I agree. Unfortunately, this has been a kind of a project that's been done piecemeal, based on what time we have and the money available. Getting the gazebo was the first step. Yes, we will eventually be bringing power to it, mostly for, again, if you're going to set up a small,
Like an acoustic.
music or interior lights. We're not planning on putting up big outside lights.
Right.
So the gazebo is over there now. We don't have any other budgeted monies at this time to do the rest of the renovation, so it's going to be a work in progress. But yes, that's the plan. We also have to build a ADA ramp off the back of it because it didn't come with one. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to do, and we'll be coming back to you as we develop it.
Make a motion, we issue the harbor development certificate as requested in this application.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Town Facilities Design and Engineering.
So, Mr. Mayor, this is the next step in our discussion of the new town facilities. We've done the analysis and the comparison. The town council voted to move forward with this option. And just to the point made earlier, this was a competitive process, and this went through a competitive process that was a request for proposals. It's not a bid, and that initial proposal had these other provisions as add-ons if needed. So we did go through a competitive process for this, and this is now where we are on the option chosen by council. We did include originally we were talked about doing the new municipal facility and the portions of the library building that we will be retaining. We also saw the efficiencies of scale of including the downtown restroom. And then at the work sessions for the budget, you also moved forward the beach restroom into the same time. We did not get the proposal for the beach restroom in time to bring this forward. However, I did not want to wait another month. So what I am asking is that you approve the proposal as presented, and then once we get the beach proposal, I will be asking for a second amendment that will include the beach proposal and remove the train restroom from this timeline and put the two restrooms on an accelerated timeline. So right now, it's all, I don't want, the municipal holding back the restroom on Main Street. But that's step two. So I just want to let you, that's kind of the plan for that. We are shooting for, to get those restrooms done as soon as possible. I'm not going to guarantee we'll get them up and running before the beginning of next season, but we're going to give it the old college try. So staff recommends approval.
Can I get a motion? No motion?
I move that we adopt ordinance 2022-0616B to adopt. Oh, sorry, I'm already reading the next one already. I already am. All right, so moved. Can I say that? I was already skipped ahead.
We had a motion, got a second. Any discussion?
I have some comments, if I may. You can
You
take
may.
them for what they're worth. So I looked through the proposal. I didn't see any notice of communications design required. Excuse me? Did somebody say something?
That was
No, Jim's walking.
No.
It was Siri.
Didn't see, I turned her off. Any mention of communications design, so I'm assuming that's going to be handled by the MEP designer. Also appears that there's no cost estimate until 100% design, which I think is a mistake. I think we need a cost estimate at 60% so we can see whether or not we are remaining in budget. And if over budget, that would be the time that you could start developing options. Not sure if anybody in town is going to review these design submittals or how they're going to get reviewed. Design schedule, I think, is fairly long for a relatively small project. It's actually as long as the construction duration, which I find odd. In the paragraph 9.0 that says 20 or 10 visits to the site during construction, I'm assuming it's 10, but don't know that. So overall, the fee doesn't look way out of line for a project of this size. However, I do find the architectural component of it excessive. I think it's probably $50,000 to $100,000 high. I think they've got way too much principal involvement for a project of this type. Now, let's see if I have anything else. Well, architectural hours, a lot of architectural hours for the design. It's, I think, a relatively simple. Oh, the last comment is cost estimate. The consultant, I think his fee is extremely high too, particularly if he's only going to do one estimate with no responsibility if it comes in over budget. So that's it. Thanks.
So how do we address Steve's comments? Because I think they're important.
Yeah.
That's what we count on him for.
Yes.
That, earn your $25. Don't spend it all in one place.
Can those things be revisited and we,
Well,
Table it?
Yeah.
it'll delay the project to a month. I'll have to go back and
Okay.
I think they're important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate to have someone who knows where to recognize those things and
Yes.
Yep.
move forward.
Okay.
I do have a comment, and it's nowhere near what Steve just said. I can tell you.
He took the words.
My comment is actually to Ms. Hutchler's comments of what it's going to do for the stakeholders and the citizens of Cape Charles. And I'm going to tell you, started working for the town in 2005, and I've watched staff inhale diesel smoke from the fire engines since 2005. I've watched them in unsafe working conditions. I've watched them ADA people that's got trouble getting up steps, not being able to get up steps in this building. So, yeah, no, I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, you got to look after the people that's working for the town too, and they got to have a safe work environment. So I understand what you're saying, but I've seen a lot go on in that building that really shouldn't, with asbestos and everything else. So and that's my comment. Nowhere near as technical as yours.
So we have a motion on the table?
We have a
We do.
motion.
So I'd like to amend the motion to effectively table this to our next meeting.
A second.
We got motion to amend the table and a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Now, what do we do with the main motion?
Well,
I think the
essentially,
Amended motion?
right, we're
Yeah.
suspending
So,
it.
so the motion's still on the table?
Yes, when you take it off the table, the motion is on the table. That make sense?
When you table it,
No, the motion is active.
That motion will come back up next meeting.
Yes.
But in the interim, you need to type up your notes and send them to Mr. Hudson.
I'll be speaking to Mr. Bennett between now and
Your
then.
job is not done.
it's never done.
Okay,
Thank you, Steve.
all right. So we've already had a motion for this one, Code 42.3, adoption of state law. Mr. Foreman? Go ahead, Mr. Hosey.
This is the standard requirement we do every year to bring our code in compliance with Virginia code. Staff recommends approval.
Mr. Palmer?
I can't believe it's been a year since we did this. Yes, I move that we adopt ordinance 2022061-6B to adopt amendments to the Code of Virginia.
B,
B.
B.
A.
You did resolution B.
This is ordinance. I'll second. B.
All right, any discussion on this?
Did we get a second? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Steve?
No discussion for me.
Sure. Guess I need to vote, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
No, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I know I've goofed. I move for adoption of ordinance 2022-0616B to adopt the amendments to the Code of Virginia 42.2 and Title 16.1, Chapter 11, Article 9, 16.2-278, and Title 18.2, Chapter 7, Article 2, 18.2-266, if any, for the incorporation into the Cape Charles Tank Code, Chapter 42, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, as noticed, and forego the reading of the ordinance. Roll call vote.
Buckles, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Bennett, yes.
O'Brien, yes.
Grossman, yes.
Palmer, yes.
All right. Proposed for accessory dwelling units. Well, I just will hang it up. I can't read tonight. Mr. Hosey?
So, Mr. Mayor, this is reference to your earlier discussion on ADUs when the Planning Commission brought you a proposed text change on tightening up the rules for ADUs. The council had some concerns with some of that and voted it down, which, and the intent was for the Planning Commission to go back and work on it some more and bring it back again. But I didn't want to put the Planning Commission through the work until I got an updated vision from all of you. because what we heard at the last council meeting when this came up was not the vision that staff had been, that staff had understood it to be. And there's been lots of changeover since this thing first came up, most especially on staff, but even on council. So I thought it was worth the time to have a discussion about what is an ADU. Are they desired, or are they not desired? If they're desired, for what purpose? And so I would appreciate a discussion of council on this topic, and then a clarification on what is the desire, and give the Planning Commission their marching orders for bringing you back another text amendment.
Okay. Mr. Grossman, go ahead and start this discussion off, please.
I'm of the opinion that town council has the right to change it now, and I'm not sure why it would have to go back to planning commission. Planning commission offered up its recommendation. Whether you agree with it or not, you have the ability to now change it, and we can go out. We're gonna have to go for public hearing anyway. So I'd ask, that is really the same question I had earlier on the process. Why turn it back when the council has the ability to make the changes as needed, if it's not totally, overly extensive, and go from there?
So if I may, procedurally, that could have happened had you not voted it down. You killed it when you voted it down. So that is dead, and now we need
Well, voted it down in what sense? We voted for a recommendation to come to council. Council, it was presented to council.
No, I meant the council vote. I'm saying when council voted it down, it died. So that's no longer valid. So the recommendation, it's all gone now. So if you are absolutely right. What council could have done, instead of voting it down, you could have just amended it. The recommendation was brought to you. If you didn't like the recommendation, you could have amended it in any way you wanted and then passed it. But that's not what the council did. You killed it, and so now it's got to go through the process again. And if that's what we're going to do, if you're going to send it back to the planning commission to redo the work, I don't want them wasting their time. So I just
Well, we'll redo. I'm on planning commission, so we'll redo what direction is here. But I'm not saying that we are going to be in total agreement. I can only voice my own opinion. So it's going to come down to something will come back, and at that time, town council can change it appropriately.
But isn't planning commission's function, if council agrees on a direction, isn't it planning commission's function to execute that?
No, we'll evaluate the direction. Ultimately, you can overrule what we have, but we just don't walk lockstep with you guys. You give us a mission to go investigate, and we'll come back with a recommendation.
I think we can give
That's not correct.
direction
Well, I'm sorry.
on, for example, we want the parking standards to be further explained. That's the type of direction, for one example, that we could give. I can't remember.
Well, there's
There's been
two
so much
things.
discussion about
There
the
are two
kitchen
things from our last meeting. One was relative to families.
Yes.
All right, that was a big one. And the other one was the definition of kitchens. That's how it was defined in our meeting minutes from this meeting a couple meetings ago.
Right.
So that was the two items, at least, that we had
Yes.
so
discussed.
That's what I remember as well, and Andrew made the point quite well on the use by family. I didn't see that the voting this down actually requires a whole new vision. I don't think the vision has really changed. There was just a couple of items about it that the council thought should be different.
No, and I think that what happened is with all the changeover, because I wasn't on council, so I was not in every discussion when this originally went through, but I followed the issue closely. And correct me if I'm wrong, but at that time, I did not understand council's intention to be as restrictive as current staff understood as it to have been handed down to them.
It was, because I was on planning commission when this all got put through, because previous council members, Bruce was on there, they didn't want to have accessory dwellings for a long time. So it took us a long time to get what we got. And the whole intent was to drive long-term rentals, not short-term rentals. Keep it out and try to get as much affordable housing.
No, I
Because
understood.
we were way ahead of the
That
time.
was my understanding. I
But
just
that-
didn't
but
understand it
nothing
to be
about family.
100%
But the
exclusive of family use.
No, but the family use was, there was no, the family use is, as Jones has stated, it's a by right. You don't need, my opinion. and
Right,
going through
and that
this
was my
thing,
understanding of the original position of council.
it was kind of a moot point, because it was.
But that
it was
didn't
going for it was going for long-term rentals, personally, for the whole thing. But if someone wanted to use it, their own family,
But there was
clearly that's not the
specific language that
understanding got
required
handed
a
down.
60-day stay, even for a
well,
family.
that was the new one.
No. Yeah,
Well,
that was the
listen,
new one.
yeah, I
Right.
know, but I guess for me, you know, if I got an accessory dwelling unit, my son comes in and stuff like that, what am I gonna do? Say, no, you can't stay in the accessory dwelling unit. You got 60 days, you got 60 days, and then I gotta put you to the curb by hand. You know what? I'm not.
And I mean, we really know that there's no way to enforce it. We don't have the staff or anything to enforce this, so it's sort of like we set up these rules that we know
And
we're
in
gonna
a lot of places, it's
fall
called
short of.
mother-in-law suites or something
Yeah.
like that.
So-
It's done all over the place.
So, just to close the loop, I agree, the one, for something that's already built, we can't enforce it. So let me just back up. The idea, as I understood it, I could be wrong, was that increasing the density of the historic district, and density did not mean people, the comment was concerning people. I want to talk about the density of buildings, okay? The building density of the historic district, that my understanding was is that you don't want to put so many buildings in there that it takes away from the character of the overall district, okay? So building an accessory dwelling unit could potentially increase the density and potentially decrease the character. So you wouldn't just, the enforcement part is in approving the building permit, right? If you're gonna build an accessory dwelling unit and your intent is just to have families stay there or just to be a de facto extension to your house, we probably wouldn't approve that because that doesn't meet the vision that the council had. So, but that's what it's being used for. Now, if that's changed or if that's not your position, that's fine. So I'm just talking about the broader vision, not the individual details. That is for the planning commission to sort out. But are you saying that if I own a house in town and I want to build an accessory dwelling unit there and not rent it out, just use it for my personal use whenever I want to use it, is that okay? Okay, my understanding before that it wasn't. If you're saying it is now, that's a change in vision. And so that's all I'm asking, that's a clarification we're asking for.
I think it's a change in understanding of the vision. I'm not sure it's a change in vision.
No,
Right.
because it was always, you can always build a building in your backyard, but it was never being able to use it to rent it until we changed the whole ADU came up. Because there were plenty of people
Yeah,
building.
studios.
And, yeah, I was gonna say, it was gonna stop somebody from going in the garage,
If you
and
have
then,
the-
and just go gradually grab a sheet of sheetrock and take it, and before you
You
know it,
have
you
the
got
land master
you got a
plan.
room upstairs,
You
and
can-
I don't know nothing about it.
I'm telling you,
Right.
the whole
Yeah.
ruffle was wrecking the accessory dwelling and changing
Yes.
the overall density, parking and all that. That was the original pushback from the previous councils, they just didn't want to do it. And it took a long time to get to where we are, it really did.
As far as using it for short-term rentals, no.
No,
But as far as if they got family members coming in and, so, I mean, even if they're renting, in my mind, if they're renting, they've got a long-term rental and an accessory dwelling unit, and they're never here, they live in Alexandria or somewhere, and they're renting their big house on a short-term rental basis, but the other part's a long-term rental. But, you know, and then there's something like that, the rental falls through, and they come in for a long week or something, and they got an extended family, they throw somebody up there.
Or what if they rent both their house and the accessory dwelling unit?
one's long-term.
Well, the
Long
ones
term.
that-
No, what if
No.
they're doing, I mean,
No,
that
if-
happens
should-
now.
If
No,
it
I'm not sure.
exists,
It's grandfathered,
we're talking forward.
yeah.
That's-
I think it's
that's
just
where
gonna make,
everybody
it's
has
gonna be a
hard time
cluster to
thinking.
try and,
There is no short-term rental in the accessory dwelling. There's no grandfather, there was never the right to.
Right, that was none of that
Correct.
one. I remember I was
There
organized.
was never a right to do
Put a
that.
stop to it.
yeah, that's my point, how?
No, we have.
How
when
is it
cases have been
enforced?
detected, we've put a stop to it.
Yes.
I want to know, how's the process? Does somebody go and say, you're not allowed to be?
Because if you're renting out your ADU for rent, you're advertising it. So we get staff that actually looks for advertisement of it.
Okay.
And then we go find you.
Okay.
But do you find them just to get their top tax, or do you find them to say you can't do that anymore?
They have to get zoning approval.
Okay.
Which just, I mean, if it's in an accessory dwelling, there's no
Plus,
approval.
plus you also have to get
I
inspected.
mean, that's,
Yeah, because we've had a couple cases over the
because
past year.
I think when this first come up, it was
Yeah.
like 5, Andrew, what was it, like 5 or 7 accessory dwelling units in town, when all of this first started way back
Yeah.
then?
They
It was
were-
like
they were-
5, 7, 1s right,
They were flat out illegal. They were over on-
right behind you.
Yeah,
That was one of them.
right.
Okay, so am I hearing correctly that you would still approve of accessory dwelling units for the purpose of long-term rental and personal use of the property owner? For those two purposes only?
Yeah, the only thing I have an objection, and I might be the only one, is it was never intended for the homeowner to move into the accessory dwelling to rent their
Primary
ADU out
residence.
short term.
Right.
And that I want to agree with.
I know you don't. I think that there was never the
That's a different scenario. What I'm saying is to have family come in if.
No, but I'm saying the
But how do
homeowner
we
moved
address Andy's
into the
concern?
accessory dwelling to rent theirs out for short term.
To rent their primary residence
Yeah,
for short
I-
time.
That was never the intent to be.
Yeah, and I think that still should be the case.
Right. I was trying to make that point
Yeah.
before.
So that needs to be worked into the revision.
So that the consensus of council is that the ADU should not be used long-term by the homeowner so that they could rent out their main house as a short-term rental?
Right.
Is
I
that-
mean, are we
Can there be a
allowed
hard-
to do that? Are we allowed to, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's,
I mean, I think we would need an exception for hardship cases, like if someone's spouse died and that's how they were able to keep their house.
well, and that's where it gets
Um,
muddy.
Okay.
Because
Well,
there's
that's-
lots of
I mean-
different
I mean,
reasons,
that-
right?
it's,
Yeah,
that situation, they can apply for a conditional use permit?
Well, we're trying to go down the route of standardizing this and not requiring, if they met all the requirements within zoning, no conditional use.
Right, we went,
I mean, but I can understand what Andrew just said. I mean, let's just say that, you know, the big house, dwelling unit, probably the person dies, the house is too big.
I have had one homeowner approach me and say that was their plan when they built this new house, to add an ADU, and if something ever happened to the husband, that's how the wife could keep the house. That was their plan.
What happens if something happens to the wife?
It's not
Clearly, the husband
not
needs
the one
somebody
who
to help
apparently provides the majority of the income in that situation.
That's a very odd plan.
okay. Katie, do you have any questions?
Clear as mud.
I mean, you're the one that's gonna have to lead the PC through this, so do you have any questions or clarifications you wanna ask?
I almost want to flip how you're doing, at least how we present this in the ordinance, to the effect where you say something that you can have accessory dwelling units, but can only rent if it's for a 60-day or longer period, and then put conditions associated with that. So otherwise, everybody can have it.
Yeah.
If you want to still make it through a conditional use permit, so at least there may be some subjectiveness to it, but I'm a little unclear what standards you use to potentially turn somebody down if they came forward for it.
And what's stopping someone from saying, okay, I'm going to be here for 60 days, and then at day 14, they say, I got to go?
That's part of what we would build into the regulations is how we edit them on an annual basis, and if they violate it, what we do with that.
The affidavit piece would be
Yeah, I
law,
actually,
right? Is that in this one?
Again, you guys need to tell me what you want, because you tossed out the versions the planning commission worked on, so we're trying to figure out what you liked and what you didn't
Well,
like.
the affidavit piece, I think we all agreed
Right.
upon, instead of the conditional use permit. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, that wasn't one of the items,
No.
because that replaces the whole conditional use permit.
So-
We may want to keep the conditional use permit, I don't know at this point, and because it makes me terribly nervous that we haven't done a full study if you're gonna allow ADUs by right.
That means every lot that could accommodate it could have an ADU. An accessory structure is different. Accessory structure is a garage, is a shed, it is storage or whatever. But when you start allowing people to live in it, that's a different standard. There's building issues to consider as part of that, especially if you're gonna have a garage within it, and then you're also gonna have somebody live there. You wanna make sure you have certain protections, health, safety protections between where cars being parked, where fumes might be, and where living is gonna happen.
And my initial thing, I felt like the conditional use permit should stay, but what worried me, and I used my B&B as an example, we have a conditional use permit that no one's looked at since probably 1995, because it conveyed with the house. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, a conditional use permit should have some type of yearly affidavit, which is where that came up. That's why I was big on that from the beginning, because I agree with the same thing you're saying, is that there are special conditions in different locations that need to be looked. Do they have the parking? Do they, all of those pieces?
And we do have the affidavit on a yearly basis built into what our proposed wording was.
But to touch base on what Ellen brought up, to touch base on what Ellen brought up, the 60 days and what stayed to 14. I know during COVID, when everything was shut down, there was vacation rentals in town signing 30-day leases, and they were here for 3. And then the next week they'd sign another 30-day lease, and they were here for 3. So that's going to be.
That's what I mean about enforcing it. There's no way it would be able to.
So. No, you can't. I'm sorry. We're in a meeting. This is our discussion. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay. I think we have a better understanding now.
You do?
I think
I'm lost.
Paul is on.
I am not gonna, she's gonna leave.
But between both of you, hopefully, I think we have a better understanding, and I guess, my sense is that the next time you see that recommendation, it's gonna be largely the same, probably. It's just gonna have some tweaks to it, probably.
I don't think there was that much that was objectionable, at least not to me.
All right.
Yeah, and I recall, I point on, just to because we haven't touched on it, on the kitchen issue, which there was consensus, was in the rationale, it had said, for small spaces with modernization, you might not need to have a traditional stove and oven. And I said, well, just a sink and a counter space does not make it a kitchen. So I think you can have a more detailed definition than that. That does not describe a full-scale traditional kitchen. I mean, I'm not terribly comfortable using a different definition than what we use in our building code, but I could live with it. But I would think, for example, to call it a kitchen, there needs to be some sort of heating appliance, some sort of cooling appliance, not just a sink and a counter.
Cooler.
All right, so this is an action item.
When I put the staff report together, I was envisioning more of a broader vision statement, but this discussion has moved beyond that. So I don't know that you could really capture it in a motion. I think unless Katie objects, I think we've accomplished our goal tonight by just having this discussion, and so we have a better understanding.
Do we have to make a motion to send it back to planning commission anyway?
No, there's no motion necessary. You can just move on without a motion. I think we have our direction.
All right. Time manager comments.
First thing I wanted to discuss, it was brought up by the Rosenwald School Initiative. Folks who came to speak to you, they have already met with me and with Debbie. And it's an exciting opportunity for them to have this. This is a grant, not a loan, and no match for sizable money. However, my initial reticence was, what is the impact on staff to manage it? We just went through a very painful process with DHCD on another very important, very necessary grant, but it was an incredible drag on resources. But this apparently is something different. The one we just went through was a one-off. It was developed on the fly. They were making up the rules as they went, kind of a thing. And so that was different. This is more of an established program. And Debbie met with the department last week on this to go through exactly what the details are, and it appears this could be very streamlined and not onerous to the town at all. And in fact, although they will still be technically going through us, the department could write the contract directly to the nonprofit. So, I mean, ultimately, we're the fiduciary. Ultimately, we're responsible. I'm sure we'll have some requirements, but I think Debbie and I were comfortable with the idea that we could handle it. And so, unless there's an objection, we'll be bringing that resolution to you next month. Okay? Another potential resolution, I'm surprised she didn't speak to it, but when Ms. Davis was here, she's been talking to us about crosswalks. And we did not include crosswalks in the previous resolution with her previous request for signage, which is done and the signs have been installed. And she's concerned about crosswalks coming across Randolph there between Myrtle Landing and Rayfields. I'd like to thank the clerk for doing an enormous amount of research on this. Plowing through the VDOT regulations on this is not fun, but Libby's done a good job trying to sort through it. I'm not going to mince words. It's going to be a very difficult thing to get it approved based on the conditions we have. However, we don't mind trying. And it may actually require multiple crosswalks to get where we need to be and where it makes sense. So, unless there's an objection with that, we'll probably bring that resolution forward next month as well on trying to put in some crosswalks. The last thing is another snafu on my part. I was planning my vacation for this summer, and I was planning on taking the last 2 weeks of July off, and I just looked at the calendar wrong and didn't realize that the regular meeting in July is the 3rd week, it's the 21st, and I've kind of already committed to that week. So what I'd like to try to do, although tonight's meeting made it a little more difficult, I was going to try to keep the agenda as light as possible for July and call into that meeting rather than be here, if that's okay. And other than that, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Brown, I'm going to start with you tonight.
Really?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll wait until you got your mouth full.
Thank you, appreciate that. I was going to ask John if it would be possible for us to tour the water treatment plant. I've not seen it. I've never seen a membrane. I don't know what a bad membrane looks like. Or
Water or wastewater?
both, if that's what we're...
No membranes in the water plant.
Well, I just don't want to go walk in and say, you know.
I think that I appreciate it.
Yep.
That's the biggest problem.
My point
issue from
is-
staff is to
my-
never see council.
Right.
But it might be more
My
efficient
point
for
is
them
that
to
if we're discussing this, I think it's important that we all get an opportunity to take a look at something that's failing.
That's a good idea.
Yep, it's a great idea. I'll make it happen.
And the other two are just kind of just beautification thing. There's a bike rack on the entryway to the parking lot next door to the distillery that's just laying on the ground.
Yeah, that's on the list.
And then across from Kelly's, that light fixture, the cap over the light is falling off.
That light.
Yeah,
The bane of our wind.
Yeah.
The globe.
the globe, yeah. But I also want to thank the Public Works guys, because I sent an email in to John about Strawberry Street and the weeds that were growing up in the curb, and that was gone in a couple of days, so I appreciate that. And also, D. Stratton lost his house last night in a fire. And D. Stratton in Public Works.
I don't think he lost
Dijon, yeah,
Oh,
his
is that
house
right?
burned down, yeah.
it.
So
It caught fire, it didn't burn down.
it caught fire, they lost their home,
The entire home.
their entire home. So the Christian school, and I put a thing on Facebook for donations, and they're accepting donations at the Christian school. They need money to replace everything. They've got temporary housing worked out, but their pets are okay. But I think we can really... No,
Pets, just a lot of
pets. But I mean, I think we can really help and be impactful in getting them back on their feet. He's a good guy. He's been 6 years, I think, but 5 years. But we want him to be here in 6. That's all I have.
All right. Mr. Grossman?
4 items here. Just, I'd like to get a status on the flow model study and the capacity study. Is that coming to a close soon?
Not as quick as I was led to believe. I'm reviewing some of the interim data, and it's going back to them again. So I don't have a good ETA on when it's done, when it's going to be done, but there is being progress made.
Okay, all right. I'm looking for responses to utility questions that are raised at our
I just
work
yeah,
session.
I just got those yesterday. I'll get those out to you tomorrow.
All right. We went through a harbor certificate today, and we may want to consider eliminating the need for town council to review those. You know, we can wait for the harbor district to be revised ordinance-wise, but I think similar to the historic district, we only see appeals. We don't need to have to approve the gazebo, for instance, if it is approved by the harbor area review. It's just a comment that I offer.
I kind of agree with that. When someone goes to the harbor, I mean, Historic District Review Board, they get certificates all the time without going to council.
Correct.
And I think this would be similar.
Right, so I know we got things to do, but and the last thing I had was, Kip to Peak Inn, somebody mentioned it earlier this evening, that contract was signed, and they are now, I think, starting to demobilize the gas station there, so I'm not sure what their timetable is, but again,
didn't
the intent
demobilize
was
it,
to do workforce housing rentals out of that hotel, or,
So it is a go?
so far, yep.
Yeah, the gas station thing is gone.
It helped having a truck run through it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It was halfway there.
That's all I have.
Mr. Palmer?
I don't think I have anything.
Yeah.
Really?
The mayor looks sad.
Mr. Bennett?
Just one thing, and this is, I guess, for you, Tammy, because we had talked sometime, I've talked about it for years, about changing those signs out at Route 13, and you said you had something coming, but it's been 6 months or so since something was coming, so just wondering what the status on that is.
It's actually on my comments tonight, so when we get to me, I can.
Where do you?
Tonight.
That's all,
so
the only one
close.
I have.
Okay. I wanted to get direction from, we really don't know who is the approval body of this new sign. Like, you know, Main Street's in charge of a lot of things, and overall marketing and the commercial district. Both of the sign out on 13 falls in the marketing side, but it falls out of the commercial district. So we want first a temporary kind of fix for the signs out on 13. We would like to propose that we change the signs that are words to Historic District and Beach, just to start with, and underneath it to hang a Virginia Main Street community. There's hooks that you hang. That doesn't prevent people from doing signs, because we want to encourage people from doing banners
For
out on
events.
there for events. But that's a short-term kind of fix. We would like to apply for what's called a downtown investment grant through Main Street and actually work on a change of that sign as well as the main sign as you come in, because it's overgrown. You can barely see that sign on the lot that we own. Everybody know where I'm talking about? But I really don't know if it's our Main Street's authority to do so. Should we go through the process of developing ideas and bring it to council?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know who would have the sign
And
authority.
Public Works maintains it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean,
Are you talking about the one on Fig or the one?
No, 13.
13 to start with. I think if we're in agreement, we can go forward with those two changes as far as words and then a Virginia Main Street community. But long-term, we want to enhance that sign. But we also desperately need to do the one on Fig. It is old. It's old and cannot be viewed very clearly. And Main Street's happy to take that on, to get grants to do so for both of those. but I just didn't know if that was the authority to do so. I don't know.
I guess it was consensus on council
I
for Main Street
I
to
have
do
no
that.
problem with that, I'd like somebody to do it.
So we'll proceed, I say we, but Andy and I had our last official Main Street board
Yeah.
meeting on Monday night, so we finished June 30th.
So they,
But I'm on for another year as far as
Okay.
past president, but I'll get it in the hopper. John is obviously, on the board, so that will continue, and I'm sure I'll help write the grants for those two things. So it's not dead, but I'd like to get those two changes done right away, out on 13, just to get at least that part taken care of.
So, Tammy, just a clarification, because I know Main Street's been struggling with this, poor Reggie, on trying to get the Main Street community sign up. Are you talking about putting that up on 13?
No.
This would be a different,
Sorry, there are two signs that we should have had up 6 months ago that we got with the designation that are regular size sign that you see when you go to any Main Street community. And Reggie on our board, Reginald Widgeon, has been trying to work with VDOT to get approval of where those go. It's been an unbelievable experience.
Up in Hancock, it's 5 feet off the road.
Yeah, and they're not allowing us to do the same.
Because it's
So-
on Hancock,
Yes.
VDOT lives up there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're trying, where those are trying to be are over, just before the brewery, because that's where the commercial district starts, as you come into the commercial district in town. And then the other one over by, is it Bay Shore Road, is that the? When you come down the high.
yeah,
South Parkway.
yeah, the kind of intersection there.
Yeah, the intersection of when you turn on Bay Shore and Casat there, where there's already a sign, so that they'll be the official Virginia Main Street signs. The ones we're talking about to hang below are just smaller
Okay.
signs that we'll have to have those made.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, leading right into money talk. Great news, Main Street applied for 8 Northampton County grants, infrastructure grants, and got over $83,000 through those grants. 25 toward the bathroom, so that will go toward that. 30 toward the train work that's going to begin. 8 for Festa Fridays, 5 for Love Fest, 3.5 for Love Run, 5 for enhancements like benches and trash cans, 5 for the walking tour app. We're just finishing up a historic walking tour app, and this will be the second app that will go along with that. And 6 toward the map. Hopefully you guys have all seen the map. We went through 30,000 copies in less than 2 years. So it had a quicker reprint, and so the county is helping with that. And then you've heard talk of the ARPA tourism money, which is different than the ARPA money that we're controlling. The county got $130,000, and we had to, the ESVA commissioned, Robert Sabatini and Charlie had to decide how that was allocated. Cape Charles got $50,000 of that, and we have designated projects that will go toward, that's from Virginia Tourism, so it's more marketing related, but they actually allow some projects to be approved, like the train, because it's going to be a welcome center, which is, in a visitor center. So we really did well for the train and getting it moved to the next direction. And then lastly, I want to thank Debbie and Libby and John. We go through so much work to get this budget approved, and we did a lot of work. The folks here tonight just saw the end kind of piece of that, and it probably looked like we just vote, oh sure, we'll just check that off. But there's hours and hours of work on their end that go into it, and on our end from working through and making hard decisions and thinking through for the best of the town. And so I just want to thank all of you very much for your work.
Thank you.
That's it.
Man, you put my phone there. I just want to give you guys all kudos saying, I was going to say that because it's, 6 years on council, this is by far, it seems like every year it gets easier and easier. Because the first couple of years on council, it was painful. This is really good. And it helps big, big, big plus. With Deb, Libby, and John, and I'm sure there's plenty of other people out there. That's all I got.
For me, first of all, I want to touch base on report of concern. 7 of us sitting up here, pretty much is oversight and set policies. If you reach out to one of us, if you've got a concern, chances are it may or may not fall through the cracks. We have a thing on our website called Report of Concern. It's the fastest way to get something done. It goes to our appointed officials, which is, they're all 4 sitting right here, Chief, Deb, Libby, John. They handle the day-to-day operations. If they cannot get it done or they don't do something to your satisfaction, then I would say reach out to council. But the best thing to do is to reach out to the staff that handles the day-to-day operations. Keep in mind, if you are having a concern, there's another side, typically to the story, so they're going to investigate, and sometimes things take a little bit of time. And if it requires it to come to council and there's an ordinance, of course, there's going to be a public hearing, and then there's going to be votes and stuff, so it's a process. So I'm just reminding everybody the best way to get a reaction is to go to staff first. I'm not saying not to talk to your council members or not to talk to us, but the best way is to start with staff. If they don't give you the answers that you're looking for, then reach out to council. But let the staff, that's what they do. They do it every day in and day out. So, and they're here to work for the benefit of everybody in the town and every citizen, every business, and everything else. The next thing I want to say is, next Tuesday is the last day to sign up for elections for November. So if you're thinking, if it's in your brain that you may want to sit up here and do this, you better sign up. I do want to say, and I'm going to touch base on Tammy and Andy, and I think all of us up here, the budget process, just having a capital improvement plan now and just having the things spread out so you can actually see. I remember when I was harbor master, we would have a three-day retreat of doing nothing but budgets and this and that, and typically it was somewhere off-site, and we'd all speak and this and that, and then there would be more and more meetings after that, and I think it was to the point where we're meeting about meetings, but it's nice to see things streamed well, so thank you, Deb, thank you, John, and thank all the department heads, because I know they feed you all, and I'm sure they're getting information from their staff as well, so it's a collective thing, but thank you all very much. June the 20th, town offices is closed for Juneteenth, and it's a state holiday. Look at there, we're almost to July 4th already. Don't forget to decorate your golf cart. Joey. Got a parade, street fair, fireworks. Going to be a good time. July the 7th. Oh, wait.
You're going to bring that, I was going to say.
Yeah, okay, yeah, all right.
You're going to bring that up?
I was. So yes, July the 7th.
Well, July 7th isn't going to work.
July the 7th isn't going to work.
Mr.
So
Grossman
we
won't be here.
We got to have an executive session. And the 2 dates is
The 28th.
of June or the 12th of July.
Now, the 12th of July, I forgot to mention, you're already meeting. That's a joint work session on the comp plan. So actually, we could just hold an executive session afterwards.
Yeah, I
You know,
can do it.
Okay.
The 28th would be another option. It would just get things moving sooner.
Right.
The 12th.
12th.
I vote
12th of
Yep.
July.
because we already have that, right? That's the joint.
That's the joint meeting with the planning commission on the comp plan. So, and I think you were all available for that, right? Everyone's planning to attend
Yep.
that, correct?
Okay. So switch to July 7th, executive session
So
too.
Yeah, July, so there won't be any meeting on July 7th then?
Is
Yep.
that 6:30? I have 6:30, but a lot of times.
It's 6:30.
6:30.
All right, so July 12th?
July 12th.
July 12th? All right. July 21st is the regular town council meeting. With nothing else, I would like to get a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I'm so sorry. I know I ran my mouth a lot, but I have something that's really, really important to announce.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Main Street was just awarded national accreditation through National Main Street. So we're not only just a Virginia Main Street community, we are now a national Main Street community.
And that just happened?
It just happened, I'm sorry. I'm like, oh, yeah. So you'll see a press release and stuff out, but I
It was-
certainly wanted this group to know first, so.
At least for me, getting my last meeting in Main Street and having been doing it for so long, it was a nice.
Excuse me, sir, can you
nice
touch the
goodbye.
phone
He's
off?
trying, he's trying.
It was a nice goodbye gift.
Yes, so, sorry to extend the meeting.
That's fine, that's awesome. And Mr. Fulmer, you got anything? Okay, you're still good. I figured I'd double check. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn the regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hold on.